Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, right? It says Wednesday. I feel like I'm a day off. It is now May 27th, 2006, or 2026, excuse me. I just took 20 years off our date here. Hey, welcome into Live Weather Impact. It's been a busy afternoon, as you can tell. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. We've actually been tracking some, I would say widespread storms, but some pretty strong storms in parts of our area. They've broken up quite a bit, but there are still, some pretty good downpours out there on the radar. You can see these isolated to, I would call them like a broken line of storms starting to push into the Piedmont right now. They have weakened tremendously. They actually produced some severe weather to our north and west earlier, but we can actually see some of the downpours coming out of these from our Dallas camera. We could look over to the west and you could see pretty impressive rain shaft there. And one of the things I always like to see on this, and just, we'll peel back the curtain a little bit about what we're looking at here. If you look carefully on the left there, you can actually see, good lightning strike. You can actually see what looks like the rain shaft like belling out, kind of flared. Think of like bell-bottom jeans. When that flares out, that means there's pretty good outflow or wind coming out of that. The more accentuated that is, the curling of those edges, we would actually consider that a downburst if that were to continue. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. There's definitely some wind in these. If there's going to be anything coming out of them that could be strong to severe, it would be wind. And we did get some damage reports from northern Iredell County. The storm we were looking at, I'm going to zoom in on it from the camera. That's it right there. It just moved through Cherville. It's heading towards High Shoals, Dallas, Lincolnton. Again, likely, there's that lightning strike we just saw. It actually showed up there pretty well. Likely some gusty winds, at least in there. We go up towards Mooresville, some isolated scattered storms over towards Concord, Mount Pleasant, heading up into Rowan County. So we certainly have some pretty good downpours moving through the area. Now, earlier, we had a almost stationary storm that formed about 3 o'clock, maybe 2 or 3, over the northeast corner of Caldwell County near the Wilkes and Watauga County line near Buffalo Cove. It produced about 5 inches of rain in less than 3 hours. So we had some pretty significant flash flooding from reports along Buffalo Creek. And Buffalo Creek starts up there at Buffalo Cove, and you can see the terrain runs down all the way down to the southern part of the Warning towards Yadkin Valley area, Ledger, I guess that's Ledgerwood. So, yeah, we heard the debris flow, some flooding. A lot of water crossings likely were impacted there. So if you're in this area, please avoid the roadways up there. They might be unstable. You can see that amount. That was a ton of rain. And, again, a lot of that fell in less than 3 hours. So you get that much rain in that topography, you're going to have some pretty good issues. That was our storm track earlier. Let me erase that. We'll try to give you a better view of it here. It looks like it's kind of moving pretty quickly to the east. We're actually getting a couple more developing out ahead of it. So something to keep an eye on this evening if you plan to go walk the dog real quick. Remember, the sun doesn't set tonight till 8:29, almost 8:30 tonight. So we've got some time before we lose the heating of the day. You see the overall pattern, a lot less storms today, and that's kind of what we anticipated. We anticipate this being the case tomorrow. I think even fewer storms. Temperatures today, it was hot. I mean, we got into the mid-80s. If you spent time outside, it was toasty. It felt like a sauna out there. The dew points were crazy, crazy high in the low to mid 70s. I mean, it is absolutely drenching out there. So for the next couple of hours, see that 30-40% through about 8:30 maybe. Just be prepared. You could see a brief downpour. It might feel like it came out of nowhere. It's not. It's coming in with that line. So we'll keep a 40% chance this evening with only lows near 70 if we're lucky. Tomorrow, this is going to be a hot one. Mid to upper 80s, but that won't do it justice. With the humidity, it'll feel like mid 90s out there. There's our broken line of storms. We'll go through the evening. They pretty much peter out. Tomorrow morning looks like some lingering sprinkles, but then it dries out pretty quickly tomorrow. So I think even less storms tomorrow. That's why it's a hotter day, more sunshine. Friday, again, northeast winds start to develop, maybe a little bit of a backdoor front. I'm really curious on what this backdoor front is. I think Tim and I are going to talk a lot about this, but this backdoor front looks like it gets in here, doesn't produce that much moisture, but it could really dry us out. I'm really fascinated watching what we call precipitable water. Tons of tropical moisture, but look at this backdoor front. It gets down here Thursday into Friday. We're kind of on the dry side of this, but the thing about these stationary fronts, because they're stationary, you never know where that's going to stall. I mean, it could be anywhere from Charlotte to like Atlanta. So if it stays south of us, we may see little rain and just gorgeous conditions. In fact, next week, a reinforcing shot of dry air for early parts of June it's going to feel amazing. An extended spring forecast here. So the 7-day rainfall forecast is very telling. It's going to take a second to populate, but it shows you that front to the south stalling. And look at all the heavy rain over parts of Florida, southern Georgia, coastal sections of South Carolina. But for us, the rain chances have actually trended down quite a bit. So I would not count on this being a very wet pattern unless something dramatic changes in the next couple of days. And I think it is something I would pay attention to the forecast, because there could be changes depending on where that front ends up stalling. Here's a look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Super warm the next couple of days, cooler this weekend, but look at next week. Meteorological summer starts on Monday, June 1st. You could not ask for better weather for early June. Upper 70s, low 80s, low humidity, morning lows in the 50s. Your AC will not be working overtime. In fact, it will feel comfortable out. But I will talk about the mosquito meter coming up as well, because all this rain, guess what that means? A lot of mosquitoes. We'll talk about that and a lot of other things coming up in 2.5 minutes when Tim Buckley joins me here on Live Weather Impact. So stick around.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
All right, a little bit of breaking news, Tim, as we jump in here. While we were in our break, we actually were watching the storm, James and I, and we had a severe thunderstorm warning pop up there in Gaston County. Two things to notice. A pretty beefy little storm. It's got a pretty good core. We were watching what looked like a downburst signature, Tim. We could actually see the belling out of the rain shaft. So we got the radar view. Let's look at the actual tower cam view, because this will tell you a lot about what this storm is doing. So that's the storm. And if you look off to the left there, you can actually see the rain shaft kind of doing that flare or that bell bottom, Tim. And we know what that is. When we see that, we know there's some pretty good wind coming out of those storms.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that's like perfectly positioned for you guys with that Dallas camera there to be able to see that. And we've noticed that with a couple storms up in the Piedmont here too this afternoon, that there is that little signature of some downbursts. Haven't heard of too much damage. This one looks to be a little stronger, but certainly that would be something where you'd expect some gusty winds, right? And maybe some spooky clouds, exactly like you're seeing right there.
Yeah, you can actually see the wind coming out of this. And so, these are so, you see this a lot in the summertime when we have this super saturated atmosphere. When you have so much moisture coming down with that rain shaft, it can actually displace air by itself. And it's cooling evaporatively, so you get a lot of wind when that big splat of water makes it down to the surface. And that's a classic. Let's go back to the camera, because Tim, that is really, you can actually see the curling up on the edge there of the downburst as the rain is kind of curling. So that's definitely got some strong winds in it.
You can learn a lot about weather just by looking at it and watching, right? So that's kind of the best way. And when you're looking at this, just like you said, the air is hitting the ground and it's spreading out in all directions. So when people talk about straight line winds, you might not realize all we're saying is that air can go out in all directions. It's not twisted. It's not like a tornado. And if you were to see that wind damage here, you'd be looking at those trees kind of falling in the direction that the rain is blowing right now.
Yeah, that is like a textbook example from that. And I'll quickly kind of show you the diagram, Tim. So look at this image right here. Everyone can see that. James, show my my weather one here. This is what a downburst looks like. The diagram of one. The air comes down and curls up, and so we're actually seeing that curling up on either side. Now, it's not I wouldn't say it's a huge, strong one. I'm looking at maybe 55, 60 mile an hour winds. But that's certainly enough to cause, some damage, and that's why we got a severe thunderstorm. I'm curious, though, the warning is like an hour long. That seems incredibly long for a short duration storm like this. I don't know if that was a typo. I saw that come out. I'm like 7:45. It's not even 6:45 yet. That is a long warning.
Yeah, they're not moving too fast, I guess. It looks more impressive on the camera view than it does on the radar. It's always nice to have both of these things. But hopefully it's just a storm where people can get the rainfall and you don't get the wind that downs the tree or knocks out your power. We've had a couple hundred power outages up here today, but that's about it so far. So most of these storms have been relatively tame compared to what they could be.
Yeah, you had a couple good warnings up there near the Virginia line, I think up in Rockingham County. Did you guys get any hail up there, or was it all just wind damage?
So there were certainly some hail signatures on radar that we've been looking at. I'm sure there were some pea-sized, penny-sized hail, those kind of things. Not getting too many pictures, not getting too many actual storm reports of that today. But we do have a couple wind damage reports. This is from up in the Eden area, a couple trees down on some power lines, a couple trees blocking a few streets. That's mostly in that Eden area. And we did get some spooky-looking clouds, of course, as well, just like the storm that you're showing down there. This is also in the Rockingham County area. Nice-looking shelf clouds, but some of those scud clouds or Arcus clouds, kind of upward movement into the storm. Not rotating, not spinning, but enough to kind of stop you in your tracks as you're headed out of Walmart there this afternoon.
Yeah, that one, those are definitely those scary-looking clouds, some good scud clouds. And when you're getting these humid atmospheres like this, Tim, I feel like we always get some pretty good-looking clouds because you're getting cold, dry air clashing with 70-degree dew points, and you tend to get some pretty cool stuff out of these cells. I want to do a quick storm track on this storm just so people have a heads up if you're just jumping in, because we did a push notification for people tuning in to Live Weather Impact. We are tracking an active severe thunderstorm warning. I'll do a quick track on this, Tim, because it looks like if it does make it into Charlotte, it's going to move right over the airport, so this will give you a rough idea. Gastonia around 6:52, McCaddenville, Cramerton around 7, and then moving into Charlotte around 7:15. So I doubt it's going to last to 7:45. That it seems that's a long ways to go if it's moving 25 miles an hour. Likely going to rain itself out. But that's a quick storm track on that. And again, as Tim mentioned, there's been some pea-sized hail signatures. I wouldn't say hail is my number one concern. This, to me, looks like a wind threat, especially looking at the camera views at what we're seeing moving into the area. It looks very similar to some of the storms we had further north. We had a severe thunderstorm warning in parts of Iredell County earlier, Tim. I know you guys had a Davie County. Did you have one up in Yadkin County, maybe up in that area as well at one point?
Yep.
Those had some
Same
damage
one.
reports for wind as well, especially in that right on the border there of Iredell County. And then, Tim, this was kind of a storm I watched earlier this afternoon. It's kind of on the border of Wilkes County, Watauga, and Caldwell County. It's a very small nook of northeastern Caldwell County. Pretty significant flood event looked like it unfolded in Buffalo Cove, which is a small creek that runs from Buffalo Cove to Yadkin Valley. I think by my estimates, the rainfall estimates from radar was like 5 inches in less than 2 hours. And so it sounded like there was some flash flooding and some debris flows up there. And unfortunately, that's an area that's very flash flood prone, and also that was heavily impacted by Hurricane Helene as well.
And what we're noticing, and we've had a couple of these downpours that sit and drop this impressive kind of rain in just a couple of hours. We've had a few in the mountains. We've had a few in the Piedmont. What we're noticing and what we're reminded of is when they happen in the Piedmont, usually we can handle it. When it's up in the mountains and you add elevation to it, it causes a lot more problems. And that's another situation, I think, today, right on that Wilkes County, Caldwell County line, that big problems, right?
Yeah, you can see the topography there, and that you can see all the little creeks that flow into Buffalo Creek. I always like showing all the creeks here, and all that water's going into one narrow area. It's a bottleneck of water, Tim. So that's when you tend to see those literally flash floods, because all that water gets forced downstream. And you've been up in these areas, beautiful areas. These creeks normally aren't very wide, and the crossings are pretty close to the water. And you could get a rapid water rise that feels like it comes out of nowhere. Then you throw debris in that, maybe trees or mud. It becomes a real big problem for people traveling on cars crossing near these creeks or over these creeks.
And when you talk about the mountains, where do people settle? Where do they build houses, build roads, build towns? It's right next to the creeks, and it's right in the valleys, which that's where the creeks are too. So that's kind of why you tend to have maximum impact with those floodings, because that's where the people are positioned. Historically, you want to be by the water.
Yeah, it's amazing the number of towns and campgrounds and stuff that are in the little nooks and crannies of these creeks, because they are ideal places to be when it's not raining, because it is a great place to live. But man, when it rains, you got to watch out. So again, if you're just tuning in, again, if you are streaming, the time currently for us is 6:48. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for Gaston County until 7:45. To me, that's a very long time for this warning to be up, but we're watching it not only on radar but on our camera over in Gaston County. Nice scary looking cloud coming right at us, almost looks like a wall cloud.
Whoa.
But it is not rotating. So if for folks that see these lowerings, Tim and I, we get pictures like this all the time, and I love seeing the video, Tim, because that looks scary if it was a still image, but looking at it video, it's not rotating at all. So it's really nothing scary. It's just a low cloud.
It's still enough to definitely make you just stop and stare, right? That's pretty mesmerizing right now. And look how close it's gotten to the camera. So is this going to whoosh right over the camera and then kind of pass from one side to the other?
Yeah, we're going to know the height of this cloud, or the cloud base, pretty easily, because this camera is at 1,495 feet, I believe, so just under 1,500 feet. So the tower itself is 2,000 feet. The camera's a little bit farther down, so we'll know. I mean, it's gonna. You're right. It looks like it's gonna. We might just scrape the camera as this heads our way. It's kind of interesting. We're getting rain, but we still have pretty good visibility. Normally, when it's pouring like this, we can't see anything.
Yeah.
I love this camera for this reason. We get these great views of these storms. And Tim, you mentioned this earlier. It's like, it's great that we have radar, but I did a talk today with some emergency managers in Union County, and we talked about how important eyeballs and eyewitnesses on the ground are, because knowing what's happening under that radar return really tells you a lot about what the storm is doing. And that's why spotters are so important to us, both of our stations, because it really tells us the ground truth of what's happening out there.
And especially considering, most of our viewers know, some don't, we're in a pretty poorly covered area by Doppler radar. So we have holes, we have gaps in the action, so it's much better to see things than to just rely on a radar beam that might be a couple thousand feet in the air, and you're missing a lot of stuff. It does appear that some hail is trying to form at least up inside of that cloud. About 20,000 feet up, you're getting some returns that are pretty impressive. So wouldn't be shocked if you get some of that out there near Bessemer City or closer to Dallas right now. But that cloud is stealing the show.
Yeah, let's look at I'm actually look at the velocity data here to see what kind of wind speed we got in there. We'll switch to our terminal Doppler, which is closer to the airport, which is always
back online.
Yeah, it's back up, but we're losing signal here and there. So it's showing some pretty good outbounds. No rotation, by the way, for everybody. We can also look at the velocity data. This has got a clear downburst signature because the winds are spreading out. You can see that right near Bessemer City, where Tim was just mentioning. If we back this up, I'll back it up. You can see the brighter greens there. That is wind coming at the camera. The reds are going away, so we call that divergent flow. It's not convergent, so it's not tornadic. It's a downburst signature, and clearly some strong winds in there. That's one problem with terminal Doppler. It tends to lose beams all the time, so we got both of them looking at that. And quite a bit of lightning as well. We saw some good strikes earlier when James and I were looking at this. So just a heads up, Gaston County, Western Mecklenburg County, you're next in line if it holds together. Gastonia, big population center. This is going to cross right over 321 between Dallas, Gastonia, and Bessemer City, Kings Mountain area, Belmont, Mount Holly, Cramerton, McCaddenville, all those areas towards the Whitewater Center. These are all going to be impacted by this storm. Pretty good cloud to ground lightning, it looks like, coming out of that cell as well. And Tim, it's been an interesting day because it actually was probably the sunniest day we've had since Sunday around here, and I think that's what's helped fuel some of these storms because, we got up into the mid-80s briefly. It was super sticky, and so we have what we call CAPE or thunderstorm fuel. So these storms could go for a while, and ironically here in Charlotte, our sunset is not till 8:29 tonight, so we've got a ways to go before we lose heating of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, I think, too, the storms held off. It's not like you were getting those pop-up downpours right away at 11 a.m., noon, 1. You were able to kind of save some of that storm fuel for the later afternoons, and that's kind of when we're seeing them. We are getting some storms. If you're watching from our Triad area or the Piedmont area, too, a couple of ones will pop on radar here for you if we can. We've got a decent line forming in Randolph County, so if you're watching from Asheboro or Randleman, these areas, this is kind of clustering together all in a line now. So that'll be something that we watch, not just for thunder or gusty winds, but also for potential of really heavy rain that could train over your area a little bit. So we'll watch that. It's really pushing kind of along Highway 64 back toward Jackson Creek and then over toward High Rock Lake where it gets a little bit less. And then one other area I'd like to point out is up here. This just passed you in Reedsville. Kind of blew up in intensity in the last 20 minutes. We're seeing more lightning with it now, and it's pushing in right there toward Yanceyville. So definitely some thunder and lightning, heavy rain, tough to drive in, probably some gusty winds too. So this is kind of the name of the game right now for the rest of the day today. And you look across the state, these clusters are popping up all over. Up in the Halifax area, they're getting hammered with, tons of lightning right now. Stronger storms than what we're seeing over here. This is a couple hundred lightning strikes. And Brad, we've talked about it. We're in a lightning drought too. Yeah. We haven't had a lot of thunder and lightning in North Carolina this springtime.
Yeah, I saw Chris Jackson, our good friend, our storm chasing buddy down in South Carolina, post map of North and South Carolina. I think it was lightning for May, and it was weird to see that it was devoid of any lightning, which is odd to say in the month of May. So, it's been kind of nice to actually hear some thunder. And this past weekend when we had some thunderstorms, we needed the rain, but as a meteorologist, it's just nice to hear a thunderstorm because it tells you once it's a normal spring day and finally we're getting some rain. But it has been a really weird spring without hearing that on a daily basis. Another great view from our Speedway camera. This is a gorgeous shot because you could see that cumulonimbus cloud building, and you can actually see the skyline of Charlotte off in the lower left-hand corner there. So pretty cool view from way up near the Cabarrus Harris-Mecklenburg County line. I love watching these backlit storms, Tim, because if you look at the very top, you can actually see the updrafts actually in real time building, and you'll see them actually moving, and it really does kind of explain to you what's happening and why we call these convective elements convection themselves, because we've got a convection current going, and there's updrafts, there's downdrafts, there's movement in these storms all the time.
Yeah, and it's hard to know just by looking at them, but really what's going on is you have air going up and air going down, and that's the way a thunderstorm works, and that rapidly rising air is what makes those clouds so tall in the first place. I mean, today they're mostly in that 30 to 40,000 feet range, which is very similar to cruising altitude when you're on a regular old commercial plane going across the country. So that's why they go around these things and not through them, is because that's how tall they are. And I think we just saw a plane go by over top of this one.
Wow,
James saw it. I know he did.
Yeah, those are hard. Yeah,
Pretty.
You can't. Ooh, that is gorgeous. Got a little pilot's cap going on
Pileus
there.
cloud?
Yeah, that is cool. I love it. I mean, that is like you're zoomed in, you can actually see the movement of that going up. So, yeah, just some gorgeous views today of these storms. It's been, can you tell we've been storm starved here for a while? I haven't really seen a lot of these. It is spectacular. If you can look at these from a safe distance, they are really nice. I'm looking at that storm in Gaston County. You're right, Tim. It's about 40,000 feet. I think the one we're looking at there, I think that's the one crossing the lake.
Is that not the Gaston storm? I thought it was. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe
It's hard to tell. It might be. If that is the one, that one's up around 41,000 feet. So pretty good little storm there. But it is nice to see an actual storm. And the views today, because it is clear around these, you get some great photographic type storms. They are going to be pretty nice to watch. Tim, we're almost out of time. We've been tracking these storms. We got 1 minute. I just want to hit on it again because it is fascinating, the pattern that's approaching us for this upcoming weekend into next week. We've got a backdoor front, lots of tropical moisture to the south. I'm worried, where's this front going to stall? Because all the indications are it is to our south, but stalled fronts, they can be kind of fickle. It could stall north, south, it could wiggle back and forth. I think this is going to be a changeable forecast going into the future.
Definitely tricky. We'll see where the rain, how far north it gets on Saturday. I think Sunday should be dry for most of us, and then who knows about Monday and beyond.
Yeah, stay tuned. It is an interesting pattern, especially going into June.
Cooler.
You don't normally see something like this at the end of May. I think we're making up for lost time. We lost all this in the spring, so now we're going to have it in the summer. So, busy day today.
That's right.
Again, severe thunderstorm warning for Gaston County, 7:45. We'll continue tracking and let you know if anything changes. But stick around. We've got more news coming up after the break.